welcome to Honest Car Reviews. My name is Eric, and this is the Mercedes-AMG E63S 4MATIC Plus Estate. Family hauler, Autobahn missile, and canyon carver. The E63S is supposed to do it all. The competition is of course the Audi RS6 and the BMW M2, but also the Porsche Panamera Turbo. However, with new emission restrictions and sound restrictions, the question is this the last hurrah of the V8 powered luxury vehicle? For the 2021 model year, the E-Class along our Mercedes received a facelift, and so did the AMGs. And previous AMGs has had that muscular look with a get out of the fast lane attitude, which I think has been lost with this facelift. While it is not a departure from the AMG design language, it is still a step in the wrong direction, I think. Apart from the obvious aggressive front, there have been a lot of changes to make this into a AMG-worthy E-Class. And a hint of how capable this car is and how far AMG has gone into making this literally a monster can be seen on these massive fender wideners that houses really wide tires, sticky Michelin Pilot Sport 4S rubber, and really large brakes. At the heart of it all is the engine. The M177 4-liter V8 twin turbocharged monster that sits in almost or literally every single 63 AMG model. It produces 612 horsepower and 850 Newton meters, which slingshots this estate from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 3.5 seconds. The turbos are mounted just above here to be as close to the engine as possible, which reduces turbo lag and maximizes response. And all of this power is sent through a 9-speed automatic transmission, which is then put through the 4MATIC Plus four-wheel drive system, which is mainly rear biased. And actually, you can put this car into drift mode, which makes it completely rear-wheel driven. The changes hasn't been only to the engine. To be able to contain all of that power and put it to the ground, you need to do more. And AMG has done more. And I talked about previously about the brakes, and they are also upgraded. 390mm in the front and 390mm in the rear. But in the front you have 6 piston calipers, and in the rear 1 piston caliper. And you can even have carbon ceramic brakes, which also increase the front diameter of the discs. And instead of regular spring suspension, this has active 3-chamber air suspension, which changes in stiffness depending on which driving mode you're in, and you have an electronical limited slip differential. Why do you buy an estate? Well, it is to be able to carry a lot of things. And comparing it to an Audi RS6 and looking at, oh, this one has 1 liter more of space, or it has 1 liter less of space, I think is the wrong way to go. It is just big. You can fit a lot in this estate, which is why you should buy it. You saw how much space you had in the rear luggage, and you might guess that it would be pretty cramped in the rear seats, but it is not the case. You have ample knee space, foot space, and head space. And since you have 2 panoramic sunroofs with 1 dedicated to the rear seats, you have a ton of natural light that goes into the cabin and makes it feel really airy. This car is spec'd with the nut brown Nappa leather, and it gives a nice color combination, especially with this black and carbon fiber. But personally, I would choose for some darker materials and spec out it with some yellow or red stitching, to give it the AMG vibes that I think this car deserves. In the driver's seat, and you are met with miles of carbon fiber. But take that away, and take away the AMG specific steering wheel and the seats, and you're left with a standard E-Class. Driving impressions then. And I'll start in comfort, because that is where you will be for most of the time. And there's a lot of tire noise, and since it has air suspension, I was expecting it to be a rather comfortable driving experience. But I can feel a lot of the bumps, the undulations on the road. And I don't feel that it has that utter comfort experience that you would guess or expect for an E-Class or a more premier luxury vehicle. Being comfortable, but also being extreme, aggressive, delivering dilated pupils and a raised heartbeat. It should be able to do both. And since you have dials on the steering wheel, which you can go from comfort to Sport Plus, and also to race, you can change how you want your AMG E-Class to behave. Personally, I like to be in Sport Plus and use manual gear shifts. Yeah, you have gear shifts or gear paddles behind the steering wheel, which are a bit different compared to other steering wheels from the Mercedes lineup and other AMG performance vehicles. And since you have 612 horsepower on tap, you need to be really looking forward, because you cover ground so fast, so efficiently, that if you are not focused, there will be an accident. I talked about being afraid, or not afraid, but wondering how the new emission regulations, the noise regulations, would affect the sound of this E63S. And they have affected it negatively. It feels like it has been neutered. Yes, it is a V8, and you have that bombastic sound, and you can even hear the turbos when you let out or let go of the throttle. But that raucous sound that you did experience in previous AMG models is not here. And that detracts a bit of the AMG experience, being able to hammer down the road, then everyone knowing that this is a full-fat AMG. With the exterior being more restrained, and with an exhaust sound that is more restrained as well, there's something lacking. But what it doesn't lack is pace. The way that this executes corners clinically and efficiently. Sometimes it feels like you're more along for the ride than driving it. But you have to remember that it is 612 horsepower that you have underneath your right foot. And to contain all of this, it is no easy task. But Mercedes has done it. And if you want to, you can turn off all the electronic driving aids, and you can even make it rear-wheel driven. But once again, the way that this turns corners into nothing, and even though it is fairly heavy, almost 2 tons, having this performance in an estate, I have to applaud Mercedes. I have to applaud AMG. And this is how an AMG E63S feels when accelerate. Hold on. It is fast and it covers ground quickly, but it's really linear. The umph at 100 is the same umph at 50. So it's fairly easy to modulate the throttle once you get into boost. And that goes together with how well-rounded this car is when you drive fast. It is capable, yet compliant, and does what you want to, and responds in a very easily managed way. When I think of AMG, I think of powerful engines, an amazing sound, a presence unlike any other, but also a luxurious experience. And this car checks almost every single box, apart from the sound. And when so much is about the sound and the feeling that you get when you hear the sound, and it's a part of the driving experience, why don't you instead go for an electric car when you don't have that raucous sound? Well, it may sound like blasphemy, but it also proves that this might be the last V8s from Mercedes. I mean, the C63 will be hybrid with a 4-cylinder. But you can't deny that it is so capable. But when you don't have that full-fat AMG experience, perhaps you should go for an earlier versions. That's my final review for this Mercedes E63S. See you next time.